Okay, my presentation outline, now do a bit of introduction, then I'll look at what librarians can do, and then lastly, I want to look at the future, what things we can do together as partners. When I started, I said that librarians do a lot of things. Sometimes they assist in the production and dissemination of information, basically at several points, whether it's in the editorial process, in the publication, when the published article has come out, they help to disseminate it. They also help the researchers or students know where to find it. And we know that nowadays with the internet, online information, I think their expertise is really valuable. They also help authors when they are doing research. Most of the time you find that the researcher has submitted an article and maybe they have said they are accepting it for publication, but they need that person to work on their references, their articles, and then all of a sudden you see that this professor is now very friendly. Oh, Christine, I'm looking for this type of materials. Can you help find this documentation for me? And even postgraduate students, I can give you experiences where I've had to come from home on a Sunday instead of going to church because someone needs to finalize their references in order to submit on a Monday. So now when I get sick and I see this person, I say, please, I'm not even standing in the queue. You know, if you have a lot of patience. So you can see the amount of favors that we can get. And then, as I was saying that once the articles have been written and accepted by journals, librarians can also assist editors to verify the references and bring those articles into conformity with certain citation standards. So this is hardly a complete list, but I think it will suffice for now. I'm now listing some of the areas where I think librarians can assist us when we are working in on this project in terms of copyright agreements and policies, metadata for journals, persistent identifiers, and I'm going to go through each one of these, just speak to it very briefly. So we all understand that copyright is important, especially in this digital age, and we know from our experience that copyright is an issue that most of our people do not understand. When they write an article, they basically sign their rights away because the Lancet has said this or this journal has said that, but they don't take time to read the fine print. All they are interested in is that my article has appeared in this particular journal, and then they sign it away. So later on, as libraries, we do not subscribe to most of these journals. So if we didn't have Inari, and that professor has lost their article, they will not even have access to their article. They come back running to you, where can I find this article? Because now I'm going for promotion. They require my article, where do I get it? But when you tell them that article, by signing, you have signed away your rights. And most of us, we don't understand those things. So I think it's important, especially that we are publishing most of our journals here are open access. So it's important that our editors, our authors understand some of these copyright issues, but also that importance should lie in them being able to be flexible so that in future, we don't know how publishing is going to be in future, you know, so that it's not limiting in terms of distribution and access whenever the technology changes. Then the metadata for journals. This is very critical because it's the metadata that describes the article or the document. So if we do not understand what metadata is, what terms we assign, etc., it will limit the level of access that particular article will have. But also, I think what is very critical is consistency. Because if you assign a term to a particular article, particular term, the same article again, you have another term. So it means people have to know the various terms before they can access a particular article or particular articles on the same subject. And we know that librarians have the skills and expertise in metadata, assigning, etc. But also, I think librarians can also assist in terms of statistics. This morning, I think we talked about usage statistics. These are things that they collect all the time. So whether they are online or whether they are hosted in different websites, etc., if you went to a librarian, they will be able to assist you find ways of collecting those type of statistics. Because when you are using statistics, it's easier to evaluate the things that you are doing, even also to give trends in the way your journal is being utilized, to see the areas that are weak, etc. And also maybe you find that when you do an analysis, you find that maybe the number of articles that you are receiving in one particular subject area is much more than another. So what can you do in order to increase input from those subject areas where you're not receiving enough articles? I think the other area we talked about, we think we can utilize librarians for is indexing systems. Librarians understand indexing systems very well. And this morning we're talking about PubMed, Medline, etc. So utilize those expertise that exist. Because when you're using indexing systems, like you are indexing PubMed and Medline, it means you have stronger visibility. But also there are other areas that you can utilize, like the directory of open access journals. There are several databases apart from PubMed, Medline that you can be indexed in. Because remember, what you want is to increase visibility. So the more widely spaced out you are, the better. But of course, PubMed is, Medline is the ultimate if you are in health and medical publishing. This morning we talked about the DOIs, the persistent identifiers, and I'm saying, like, unlike URLs, which point to a physical spot or in a computer, the persistent identifier point to a resource itself, regardless of whether the resource moved to another location. And I think we have experienced a situation where you go to this website, you like the article so much. Next week, when you're doing your research and you are really stressed for time, you go there, you don't find it. So these DOIs are like the international standard book number. No matter what shelf a book is assigned to, the ISB would identify that book uniquely. So digital object identifier connects the identity of that particular object with the current location of the resource. So even if you remove the resource, you'll still be able to access that particular one. And there's nothing like changing the, I'm sure most of you that are authors have the experience where you've written your paper, you've done your research, and your article is accepted. After it has been accepted, you go back and you check the links on the references that you provided, they're not working. But if you are using these ones, that problem does not arise. Mobile applications. And we know that the phone especially is being utilized so much in our rural areas. I think there is no country within the African continent where the mobile phone has not penetrated that much. So I think this is an avenue that we can utilize. We create our content so that it can fit certain mobile applications. I'm not very technically savvy, but I know it's something that can be done. And I think there are areas where you can get examples. I think in Uganda, they were using some PDAs, etc. So this is an avenue that we can utilize to really, really go beyond our own spheres of influence. Then, of course, services such as Google Analytics to see the kind of, because once you have such type of tracking service, you can be able to evaluate the type of applications, for instance, that people are using to connect to your website, but also how many people are using your services and for what purposes. So what is important, I think, to take from this is that you must be as diverse as possible, and we should think, like Professor Tumwine was saying this morning, out of the box. Let's not just concentrate on the internet when we know that there are other applications that we can utilize that would be able to carry the internet applications to spread our journals. Then, of course, I think we can utilize social media. Social media is very popular, especially among students. It is one of those popular internet phenomena such as blogs, Facebook, Twitter, and we've had examples here where some people are using Facebook especially to get in touch with resident medical doctors. But I think participation in such channels can increase our visibility, and also sometimes because we increase our visibility, also the citation impact might be increased, because the more people see you on Facebook, the more people are interested in getting your access to our websites or our journal. So you can imagine if the Medical Journal of Zambia had so many people who are accessing it on Facebook, they will be interested in certain issues within that particular issue of the journal. So I think in this regard, librarians are well suited to be able to work with this group to advance the use of Web 2.0 channels, because I know most libraries are using these applications in dealing with their users, whether they are students, faculty, etc. Plagiarism. Plagiarism is difficult, but it's a very critical aspect. And we are always teaching within our students, our faculty, that plagiarism is one of those crimes that, as a researcher, should never be committed. But it happens. And I think a lot of editors here would attest to such, I wouldn't say crimes, but maybe misdemeanors, but I think it's a crime. So what it does is that most people, especially if they are students, they do not understand plagiarism and copyright infringement, unless you tell them that, look, when you steal someone's idea, it's like you have stolen someone's car, you know? Or if you have worked so hard and you have come up with these ideas, and then you find that someone has taken your ideas, how would you feel? So within the medical field or within the academic field, it really undermines one's journal or one's papers or common mission to advance ideas that they have worked so hard to come up with. But I think for us, especially in areas where we are working in a very, not an online environment, but maybe in a print, you find that it's more self-plagiarization, where people they've published this paper somewhere else, then they submit it to your journal and they change a word here, etc. But because you don't have systems to detect that this paper was published there, and then you just publish it. So this is, I think, a much more serious crime, because you'll be publishing something that has already been published somewhere, but the author will not say. And even if you put these systems, online systems, you'll not be able to detect it, because maybe it's in a print journal. But I think the major crime is the one that I've written here, that the scholarly debate is not advanced, and that the readers are misled regarding the novelty of that idea, because the author is repeating the same ideas. They're not advancing anything, you know? So they will take this and take that, they will change the title here, but you have no way of knowing. There are several softwares that you can utilize, but I'm putting a but, because if something is not online, it's very difficult unless you come across that print copy. Reference management. Librarians are already doing reference training, and I know Grace in University of Ibadan, Alison from Uganda. We are already doing the training where we are training faculty on how to do reference management. And I know, as an author myself, even after training so many people in reference management, I struggle to do my references, especially if I'm not using a software. I'll write the paper, and they'll say, okay, we want this publication APA. And then I'll go online and look, oh, is there a comma here? Or is there, does the author start first? Then that publication is accepted. Then next, you submit another one, they say, no, we want it in Harvard. Now I had mastered the APA. Then I go to Harvard, I go online, I have to start learning again. Then they will say, no, we want this particular one. Then again, you start. So, but there are software that will prevent all these problems. All you need is to convey it, okay, I want APA, or I want this, and you do for us. So I'm sure librarians will be able to do that training for our group. Searching. I know within our team, we have great expertise on effective searching. Effective searching saves the time of the person that is doing the search, but also because it's targeted searching. So you don't waste a lot of time, you get the resources that you want, but also you know where to look. You don't spend the whole morning looking all over the internet. You know that, if I went to PubMed or Medline, or if I went to Hinari, I'll be able to, within a few minutes, you are done and you can move to either to do your lecture or to see your patients. So this is another skill that librarians have that they can bring to this group. Preservation. I think preservation is extremely important. And we've seen how, as African countries, we have lost information because we have not preserved it. We have published the earlier publications, even sometimes you go in the library, you don't find them. You have to ask maybe from National Library of Medicine or maybe Stanford University, do you have a copy of this African journal? Yes, we have it. Isn't it embarrassing that we have to go outside our own countries, our own institutions to be able to get the work that we have produced? But I think the problem that I'm talking about here is preservation in the online environment. How do we preserve the data that we have? How do we preserve the content that we've digitized? Even if you put Medical Journal of Zambia online, that is not preservation. Because tomorrow, the technology changes. And we have seen within our libraries that there used to be those slides or microfiche or etc. Now, you have to ask for specialized people to do that conversion for you. So I think we should be aware that all this online content needs to be preserved in a format that can be accessible. But I think what is important is to make sure that we are constantly abreast with technology. We are not sticking that, okay, because we have digitized in this content, that's the end. We need to know that, okay, this content, maybe no one is supporting it. What can we move to in order to convert that content so that we can make sure that it's preserved? So for the future, I'm thinking that librarians are uniquely situated to help our medical journals evolve and flourish in a world where most of publications are always shifting and changing very rapidly. But I'm also saying that if librarians and medical journals collaboratively work together, they can help ensure that there's integrity, which is important. We just don't want to produce scholarship, but it has to be of integrity. And that scholarship should be accessible, and it should be relevant to our own needs on the African continent. However, the question I'm asking is, are we able to commit to future generations in Africa that we are going to have guaranteed permanent access to this digital content? You can imagine how much work, Prof, you have done on the journal. So are we able to commit that 20 years, 30 years, 40 years from now, we'll have permanent digital access to these resources? Now, I'm pleading that you work with us. And by us, I mean the network of African medical librarians. The reason I'm mentioning the African medical librarian, this network, it's a network of unique people. These are people that have spent 1 year at the National Library of Medicine. So they are so knowledgeable about the resources that are available at the National Library of Medicine. When you talk about PubMed and Medline, it's at the finger of, they just mention it, they dream it. But also, they are trained as librarians, so all they think about is information when they wake up, when they go to sleep, when they go to lunch. But in addition to that training, they have this unique experience of having been at the National Library of Medicine. So particularly, they would bring a unique experience, unique expertise to this group, because you are journal editors, you are African medical journals, and your interest, we know, is that if you are indexed in Medline, I see researchers when their article, when they go and search, and they find themselves on Medline, they can say, oh my goodness, my paper is there. So So because we know that PubMed and Medline is not just any other database. It's a database that has integrity because we know that if it goes there, it has been peer-reviewed rigorously. And that's why everyone fights to get into that database. Thank you very much.